My boss fired me for being 3 minutes late, then discovered I owned the company. I was 3 minutes late. Not 30 minutes, not an hour, just 3. Yet somehow, that was enough for my boss to publicly humiliate me in front of everyone in the office. He called me lazy, he called me useless, and then he fired me on the spot. The funny thing? The company he worked for actually belonged to me. And by the end of the day, he was the one being escorted out of the building. Here's what happened. My name is Ethan. 3 years ago, my father retired as the founder of Weston Technologies, a software company worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Everyone assumed I would immediately step into the CEO role, but I wasn't interested in sitting in a fancy office and pretending I understood what employees were going through. I wanted to see the company from the inside. So I proposed an idea to the board. For 1 year, I would work as a regular employee, no special treatment, no executive privileges. No one would know who I really was. Surprisingly, the board agreed. HR created a fake employee profile for me. I used my mother's maiden name instead of my family name. I dressed simply, I drove an old used Honda, and I started working in the IT support department. At first, everything was normal. Most employees were hardworking and respectful. But then a new department manager arrived. His name was Greg. And Greg had a talent for making everyone miserable. The first time I met Greg, he was yelling at an intern. The poor kid had accidentally attached the wrong spreadsheet to an email. Instead of helping him fix it, Greg spent 10 minutes insulting him in front of the entire office. "How do people like you even get hired?" Greg shouted. The intern looked like he was about to cry. Everyone stayed silent. Nobody wanted to become Greg's next target. Unfortunately, I became exactly that. For some reason, Greg didn't like me. Maybe because I stayed quiet. Maybe because I didn't react when he tried to provoke me. Or maybe because bullies always look for people they think won't fight back. Whatever the reason was, he constantly singled me out. If I arrived early, he ignored it. If I made one small mistake, he turned it into a public performance. One day, he criticized the way I dressed. Another day, he mocked my old car in the parking lot. "That thing belongs in a museum," he laughed. His friends laughed too. I just smiled. If only they knew. The car was worth less than one of my watches sitting at home. But that wasn't the point. I wasn't there to impress anyone. I was there to learn. And what I was learning wasn't good. Then came the Monday that changed everything. It had been raining heavily since early morning. Traffic across the city was completely backed up. I left home earlier than usual, but every major road was packed. Cars barely moved. I checked the clock constantly. 8:55, 8:57, 8:59. By the time I parked and entered the building, it was 9:03. 3 minutes late. I thought nothing of it. Until I walked into the office, Greg was waiting. Almost like he'd been preparing for this moment. The second he saw me, he started clapping loudly, slowly, sarcastically. The entire office turned to look. Look who finally decided to show up. A few nervous laughs echoed through the room. I immediately apologized. Traffic was unusually bad today. That should have been the end of it, but Greg wasn't interested in reason. He wanted an audience. "Traffic," Greg laughed. "That's the excuse you're going with?" I stayed calm. He stepped closer. "Successful people leave early." Nobody said anything. He continued. "People like you always have excuses." I could feel everyone watching. Some looked embarrassed for me. Others looked terrified that they might be next. Then Greg pointed toward the center of the office. "Come here." I didn't move. "Now." Reluctantly, I walked forward. He wanted a show, and he got one. For the next 5 minutes, Greg criticized everything about me. My performance, my attitude, my appearance, even my car. Then he delivered the line that made the room go completely silent. "People like you stay poor forever because you're lazy." The room froze. Even Greg's friends stopped smiling. I looked directly at him. Then I simply said, "Are you finished?" He smirked. "No." And that's when he crossed the line. Greg pulled a document from his desk, a termination form. At first, I thought he was bluffing. Then he signed it, right there, in front of everyone. "You're done." The office exploded with whispers. I stared at the paper. Greg looked proud of himself, like he'd just won some kind of battle. What he didn't know was that company policy required multiple levels of approval before someone could be terminated. A department manager couldn't legally fire anyone by himself. But I said nothing. Instead, I took the paper, folded it, placed it in my pocket, and walked away. The look of victory on Greg's face was priceless, because in less than 2 hours, that expression would completely disappear. Around lunchtime, every employee received an email. Mandatory company-wide meeting. Immediate attendance required. The office buzzed with speculation. Nobody knew what was happening. Greg looked excited. He probably assumed executives were about to praise him. The conference hall filled quickly. Hundreds of employees sat down. Then the giant screen turned on. My father appeared. The founder, the man whose photo hung in every office. The room immediately became silent. He smiled. "Good afternoon, everyone." Then he continued. "As many of you know, I retired several years ago." People nodded. "Today, I would like to officially introduce the future CEO of Weston Technologies." Excitement spread across the room. Greg straightened his tie, trying to look important. Then my father said my name. For a second, nobody reacted. They thought they heard it wrong. Then he repeated it. My name. Again. I stood up. The entire room gasped. People looked from me to the screen, then back to me. Greg's face lost all color. I started walking toward the stage. Every step felt surreal. Not because of my reveal, because of Greg's expression. I've never seen someone go from confident to terrified so quickly. His mouth literally hung open. The realization hit him like a truck. The employee he had spent months insulting, the man he had just fired, was the majority shareholder of the company. I accepted the microphone. The room was completely silent. You could hear a pin drop. I looked around, then I spoke. For the past year, I've worked in this company as a regular employee. Everyone listened carefully. I wanted to understand what employees experience every day. I paused. Most of what I saw made me proud. Then I looked directly at Greg. But some of what I saw was unacceptable. His head dropped. He knew. Everyone knew. I continued. Leadership isn't about power. It's about responsibility. A few people nodded. Anyone can manage employees through fear. Real leaders earn respect. At that moment, security entered the room and approached Greg. The room watched in silence. No one defended him. No one protested, because everyone knew exactly why they were there. Greg was escorted out without a single word. After the meeting ended, dozens of employees approached me. Some apologized, some thanked me. Others shared stories about how Greg had treated them. Many had been afraid to speak up. That experience taught me something important. The easiest thing in the world is judging people based on appearances. A cheap car, simple clothes, a quiet personality. People assume they know your value, but they don't. The truth is, respect should never depend on someone's position, income, or status. Because the person you're looking down on today might be the person making decisions tomorrow. And Greg learned that lesson the hard way, all because of 3 minutes.